We're back. We are making a set of Serbian knives for the Dodge County Fair. The last time you saw us, we had these knives cut out and all blocked out. And what you didn't see done is I have taken the pad grinders, the flat pad grinders we talked about earlier, and I've sanded them down. I've cleaned up the holes for the mechanical pins, which are brass pins, and they fit right through those holes. So what we're going to accomplish today is, you'll notice that this knife is black and charred, and it's also very hard. Now I did the file test. It's very hard. Okay, so it hardened up really nice. So here's the mate to it. Not really the mate, but this is the fair project. This is the practice knife. Once again, I've got the holes cut through for the handles, and I've taken a carbide burr to drill out the handle for the hanger where it hangs off of, which is also going to be lined with a piece of copper. So what I'm going to do first is we're going to move to the anvil, and I'm going to take these little stamps that I have out, and they're 1/4-inch steel stamps. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp my initials on these, and we'll see how that's done. And then we're going to move right to the forge, which I have lit, and we're going to start cranking out some heat, and we're going to try and do a quench while everything is all on film. So first step first, we're going to move over to the anvil and do a little stamping. Okay, use the hold fast. I've simply drawn a line on the blade where I want to stamp. Take a tool. All right, that's the next step. Now we're going to go over to the forge, get the forge fired all up nice and hot, and we're going to start quenching. So the idea is, on this steel, to bring it up to about a dull red. It'll be hard to see on the camera, but when I take it out, I'm going to take it out and I'm going to go over here to this quench tank. I'm going to move it over here so it's in view. And when I take it out, I can see the red. You may not be able to. And I don't want to get it overly too hot, but I got to get it hot enough so the molecules of the steel are moving around and it wants to harden, just like this one did. So some critical things can happen when we're doing this. And some of them are, I can get a warp, I cannot harden, it won't harden properly, it'll bend or twist coming out of the forge, a number of different things, so I have to be prepared for all of those. So, hopefully everything's going to go right. Okay, gloves on. I guess we'll start with the big one, because that's the one that takes the most time. A lot of cranking on the forge for that big knife. And here we go. Okay, I'm getting some good red color here. It's getting pretty close now. All right, we're gonna go. There's the red right there. Shake that off. Get it all the way to the handle. Pull it out, let it thermal cycle just a second. That's pretty common, the burst, that's pretty common. Oil's pretty hot. So this time we grab it a little better. It may burst again, I always back away. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is look down the knife. And I look down it, and it's got a very, very slight warp across the top. So I'm going to put it in a vise, right on the warp. Okay, now I'm going to look down again. Okay, the blade looks pretty good, so I'm just going to put a little pressure as it's cooling. Just a little pressure. Look down my handle. A little bit of a boogie, not bad, just a little pressure. Okay, that's coming pretty good. So I'm just waiting for it to cool. And while I'm waiting for it to cool, I'll do the skate test. Skate test is where we take a file. Oh yeah, it's hard. Yes, it's hard. File skates right across and doesn't raise. I can't even scrub a piece off. It's very, very hard. Real good. Real good, real happy with that. Okay, I look down the blade, and I'm gonna give you the benefit of what I'm looking at, because I'm gonna look right at the camera with this, and we're gonna try and look right down the center, and I see the slightest, ever so slightest little boogie in there, but you know what? That's fine. So now we're not going to quench it anymore. Now we're just going to set it down, and it's called thermal cycling. We're just going to let it air cool. All right, so now we're going to go to the next knife. Okay, we'll need a little more coal. Get this baby fired up once more. This forge has the capability to go 3,000 degrees plus. And when that comes out of there red hot, I'm going to estimate that to be about 2,000 degrees. Right in there. All right, let's put a knife in. Getting color on this one already. The handle is looking real good. I don't temper the handle nearly as hard as I temper the blade. I just don't see the need. I don't feel the need to do that. Some knife makers will say, don't do that. You must temper that handle. I say, you make your knife your way, I'll make my knife my way. All right, back over the big part. Ramp it up. Okay, I like that real well. All right, out we go. And into the oil. When I pull it out, it's probably gonna flame. Okay, got a little boogie in there. I'll take that out right away. Do a skate test. Hard. Okay. Look right down it. I'm going to point it right at you once. Now you can look right down it. Now if I go like this, you might notice the slightest little hook right in about the middle. It ain't much. It ain't much at all. In fact, it's so small, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to go back in the quench one more time just to make the molecule slow down. I like it. Okay. I think I'd like it if it was a little bit harder. Let me just try to work it once. Okay. Oh, that's good. That's plenty good. Okay. All right, so now we're going to let these thermal cycle. And what we're going to do is we're going to reset up, and we're going to start showing you how we're going to make the handles. So we'll let these cycle, and when we come back in a few minutes, we're going to be ready to lay out, draw on some handles. All I'm going to do in the meantime is clean the oil off, get them all set up, and we'll reset the film and the recording process so you can see what's going on. All right, here we are, and we're ready to put scales on the knife blades. So what we're going to get done is we're going to get the scales drawn on, we're going to drill them, and then I'm going to do a rough layout, and then I'm going to go grab some epoxy, and we're going to mix up epoxy. No, really, I can't do that yet, because before I put the scales on, we can get them drilled, get them fitted, then I have to buff the blades out. Because I can't really buff the blades out with all of the wood on, because the grinder will hit it, et cetera, et cetera. So what we're going to be able to get done in this episode is to lay the scales out, get them drilled, and show you how the pins go through. Then I have to polish these all up. We can probably get some of them polished up, and then we are done for this episode. So This is marked with a piece of tape. It's marked big. Simple enough, the big knife. So there's a key thing, if you're thinking of doing this, is to make sure that your scales are flat. You've got a good flat surface. Okay, so, and when I do them, this for the big knife, I lay them on, and I've made a pencil mark, a rough pencil drawing of the blade itself, and the scale or the piece of wood is far bigger than is the knife handle. So I'll mark that with a pencil, and I'll mark that with a pencil, and I can mark my big hole, but we're not going to drill the big hole just yet, but I can mark it. So I've got that. Now, remember this. Mark this in. In other words, facing the blade. So this is big knife, and this side goes in. So you will never see that. It goes in together. And there's a reason for that. Okay, so we've got that one on the inside. I think I like, well, I gotta be this way right here. I gotta be like that. Okay. Put them on there. Make sure there's plenty of space all the way around. And once again, we're going to draw that on. Big circle with the marker, big and in. All right, now we know, because now these sets are taken apart. I know which one is which. Go to the small one, smaller knife. Take apart our tape that we put on. And repeat the steps we just saw. Okay, it'll just be a minute. We'll set up the drill press and we'll start recording again. Okay, drill press is running. We have our holes laid out. This is a really beautiful black walnut. And I had the boards lumber sawed myself. In fact, this black walnut is the exact black walnut that's on the countertops in the house. So it's appropriate that we use this wood for the handles on the knives that are used in the house. So there's two holes rather. All right. Now you must remember, if you're thinking of doing this, these are lefts and rights. You must remember these are lefts and rights. That's why we mark them. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take this bit out, and I'm going to put in a very large bit, a 1/2 inch bit. And what I want to do is I'm going to drill a pre-hole in the big hole in the handle. So there's a 1/2 inch hole, and that'll be carved out with a Dremel type tool to get it to its exact size, but that's a really good start right there. A lot of material moved away. Okay, so we've got the scales drilled out. We're going to go back to the table and we're going to set the pins in, and I'm going to show you how the pins set together and what's going to happen next. And then we're going to get out the flap wheel grinders and we're going to see if we can't get one of these buffed up and possibly epoxy. It won't take long. Okay, we're at the point we've quenched this blade, and I've got my little flap disc grinder. I'm going to buff off some of this char and chaff, and we're going to get them shined up a little bit, and then we're going to epoxy the handles on. So here's how we do it. So just in a few minutes, we went from very discolored to almost having a sheen or a shine. So this old steel, it has marks and inclusions in it. And those marks and inclusions are because when this steel was stamped out 100 and some years ago, the employees that were working on it didn't take a lot of time to clean the dies carefully. So that sand and things that were on the dies under super high pressure to stamp out a massive saw blade, it left marks. It's dirty steel. And those inclusions are, I like to call it a patina. I like them a lot. Okay, now, with the items I have here with me now are 2 large clamps, okay? I've got a plastic bucket lid, not real high tech. I've got 2-ton clear epoxy, ready mix. I've got my mixing stick. I have got the brass pins that'll go through the wood and through the metal. And that's about it. So let's go to this set of scales. They're marked Casey, so that's the young man that's going to get these. All right, we take that off. All right, so as I said, this is epoxy. You can use as fast a drying epoxy you want, or you can use whatever epoxy you feel comfortable with. I think this is 30-minute. This will dry clear, but you won't see much of it once it's on the scales. Okay, so we're going to take this knife right here. Wow, the sun got it even warm. We're going to epoxy the handle area. And then, no, this is the wrong one. This is big, this is small. We want these right here, Casey in. Okay, so in, epoxy goes on the side that's marked in. Just like planting sod. When you put sod in the ground, the green side goes up. So this is kind of gooey, so I like to keep a rag handy. You're going to get this on you. I always get it on me. All right, so in here. And what I like to do is set a pin right away. There, whoop, went right through. There's one, put my thumb on it. And there's 2. So now I'm going to set the knife down on the table like this. And this side marked in goes on the top here. So it's ideal if they fit really snug. The snugger the initial fit, the snugger your end fit's going to be. So I'm just going to take a little tap. We're going to tap these down just a bit, real carefully, like that, and down it goes. Tap our pins all the way in. So for the drying time, I'm going to tap the pins through. They're flush on one side. I'm going to tap them through a little bit. Now, we have 2 options. This is an option I like. I like these big, strong clamps. I'm going to put them on there. And then we're going to look down there and just see just how close a tight fit that is. So our option number 2 is a pretty obvious one. Option number 2 would simply be putting this in a vise. So we're going to move it over like that way a little bit. We're going to pinch that tight. And that is how that's going to be for at least a couple of hours. That's going to sit like that. I'm gonna put the other clamp on it. I'm gonna, actually really quickly, I'm gonna go get a little C-clamp maybe and put it on there. I'll be back in a flash. This makes for a really, really strong mechanical connection, and that's what we want. Here's the point we're at. We have several knives to epoxy. We have the epoxy on this knife. I really can't do anything more until this begins to solidify, rather until it does solidify. So, the next time we get together, we're gonna have handles glued on, and I'm gonna start grinding these handles to shape them in the way that they're gonna be. We're gonna have holes drilled. We're gonna have buffed off the chaff and the hard stuff so we have nice hard knives to work with. And from that point forward, we're gonna make a nice knife. All right, so as I said, this is epoxy. Yep, I want to come out that side. A little stuck. Oh, come on. Well, I'm going to edit that out, I guess, huh? That's never happened before. Wow. We have a lot of firsts when Braden's here.